Reactions flooding in after the first and possibly the last debate before Election Day. We saw it unfold last night between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. Both candidates stressing their strategies to voters as they eye a tight race for the White House. Fox News correspondent Rebecca Castor joins us in Philadelphia with the recap.
Last night's debate was the first time Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have ever met or spoken, and it could be the only time they do so before Election Day.
Kamala Harris, let's have a good debate.
It started off with a somewhat reluctant handshake, but the clause quickly came out during Tuesday's presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris.
You're going to hear from the same old tired playbook. A bunch of lies.
She has no policy. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat.
Moderators began with questions on the three top issues for voters: immigration, abortion access, and the economy.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess.
We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic.
No audience was allowed, and while mics were muted, it didn't prevent some interruptions.
She was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute, I'm talking now.
Some Trump surrogates wished he went even deeper during his attacks on Harris.
One thing I wish we'd have done a little bit better is I gave you the most secure border in 40 years. When I left, mortgage rates were below 3%.
While some voters supporting the vice president say she stood her ground.
She prosecuted Donald Trump tonight.
Meanwhile, as both candidates tried to answer questions over how they'd put an end to the ongoing Israel-Hamas war, outside the debate center, tensions soared as protesters called for a ceasefire. It's still unclear whether the candidates will debate again before Election Day. Harris's camp says they're ready to debate again in October, but Donald Trump says he's still weighing if another debate is necessary. In Philadelphia, Rebecca Castor, Fox News.
Rebecca, thank you so much for that detailed report. And joining us live this morning to further discuss is Kendall Bailey, conservative commentator with We the Studios. Kendall, thank you so much for joining us bright and early. I myself stayed up late last night watching, so I don't know if you're tired as well, but we appreciate you joining us bright and early here on Live Now.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, Kendall, I know you keep things candid and I know you keep it real, so I appreciate you being here. I'd love to know your first reaction as you were watching the debate unfold. We saw the memes coming down on X. We saw people on both sides of the aisle reacting. What was your reaction?
I think the race just got tighter. I think clearly Kamala Harris was practiced. I think she was well rehearsed for last night. I think she showed up and she was poised. Even her facial reactions seemed kind of staged and put together. I think it's interesting that this morning across social media, people are saying that she had a little pearl earring piece speaking in her ear, and I wouldn't put it past her. She continued to say that President Trump was a liar. This is coming from an individual who stood by our former president for 3.5 years, watched his decline, and lied to the American people about it. I was also disappointed last night because the mediators seemed very biased toward her. At one point, President Trump talked about abortion at 9 months. Kamala rolled her eyes. The mediator said that's just not happening. There are 6 states and Washington, D.C., who don't have any regulations on abortion. I think this also was interesting that Kamala said one of her key issues is helping small businesses. These are the small businesses that wouldn't have been in the place that they're in had it not been for she and Joey's policies during COVID. This is also the woman who allows these BLM riots to happen and destroys small businesses. I thought it was funny to watch President Trump clap back with the little quibs that he had about Joey waking up at 4 o'clock and run, spot, run, and I'm speaking. Basically, what it boils down to, in my opinion, is that the people who are strong right or strong left, they are there, they are solid. This election is for the individuals who are on the fence. And while immigration is important, while abortion is important, while we're talking about wars and big things, if the average American cannot put food on the table for his family, cannot put gas in a tank to drive to work for his family, then it doesn't matter.
Kendall, great point you're making this morning. One thing that the viewers did want to discuss, and you actually mentioned it, was they felt like the questions and the heat that former President Trump was getting, that VP Harris didn't really get that. You mentioned how former President Trump was challenged with many of the things he was saying, but that didn't necessarily correlate with VP Harris. A lot of viewers feel the same way, specifically as it relates to the border and those questions as it relates to the migrant crisis. You might remember there was something mentioned about the animals and eating the animals. And one of the commentators said, well, we saw that never happen. But if you go on X, if you go on other social media sites, you can literally see videos of people boiling cats on the stove and other things like that. Break that down for us, because so many times the media is blamed for misinformation, but those videos are circulating this morning.
Can we just mention for a minute that we're sitting on national TV talking about how we have individuals in our country who are eating our pets? They're eating our cats and our dogs. This is disgusting. And this is classic of the left to throw up the flag of, oh, this is misinformation. This needs to be fact checked. I actually had my post that I put up about that fact checked by the Instagram lords. I also had a post, let's keep this in mind, fact checked, that the Walls family who came out in support of President Trump and they were wearing t-shirts, I said, what a beautiful family photo. That was checked for misinformation, because it wasn't his entire family who supported President Trump. It was just these select 9 who did. And so I think the left is very good at their marketing. They're very good at finding little ways to push it back in their favor. They do this with abortion, when they say that, you know, it's pro-choice, when a woman has a right to choose what to do with her body, and no one can debate that. And that they do this with Black Lives Matter. Of course, Black lives matter, but all lives matter. So the left is really good at twisting things.
Kendall, as we look ahead this morning, the question remains, do you think another debate will happen? Do you think another debate is needed? From what we saw last night, do you think the questions were answered by both sides, or do you think they kind of skirted around it and just gave the answer that they felt could relate to the viewer at the time?
I would love to hear Kamala's policies. I don't think we got to hear that last night. I think I'd like to see President Trump push a little bit harder on some of the topics. Again, how she dealt with COVID, why she's lying to the American public about Joey's decline. And this woman continues to say, in my first term, on day 1, honey child, we are on year 3.5. You can't be talking about day 1. You've had hundreds of day 1s. So absolutely another debate needs to happen. We need to see Kamala Harris in action another time, because seeing her just once is not enough. And up until last night, it was the liberal media that was speaking for her. So I'd like to see her in action again. And I'd like to see President Trump push back a little bit more.
Kendall, you mentioned the policies, and perfect time for you to mention those policies. As we know, today is 9/11. There are concerns of terrorism. There are concerns of national security as it relates to Afghanistan, Iran, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Yemen Houthi rebels that former President Trump mentioned last night. How do we move forward, and what can you share with the viewers to give them that peace of mind, as today it can kind of be tough for them as they think back on that tragic day of 9/11?
Yeah, I think today we need to remember that we have incredible individuals who fought for this country. And I think we need to remember that President Trump honors those individuals, and he wants to do all that he can to protect those individuals and give them a life that is worth living. Whereas the Biden-Harris administration, and now the Harris-Walls administration, wants to continue to give money to illegals crossing our border instead of taking care of those individuals who fought for this country, which is completely backwards, if you ask me. I think we need to care about who's here first and the American citizens first, and then we will take care of the others.
Kendall Bailey, a pleasure having you join me here on Live Now from Fox. We appreciate your candidness and your perspective